Story: The Red Butterfly, A Mysterious Tale. Excerpt from the news, January 1999. The case of the mysterious death of a female student in room 505 of the Agricultural University dormitory has been concluded. Student de Bao Nguyen died from inhaling the pollen dust of the scarlet blood butterfly, a species of vibrant red butterflies that inhabit the high mountains of our country's northern region and occasionally stray into other areas. Currently, the dormitory is conducting pesticide spraying to eliminate this butterfly species as well as other harmful insects to ensure the safety of the students residing here. Nguyen lay on the bed, eyes fixed on the ceiling where a dark butterfly was clinging. She felt weary and estranged from the noisy city life. She longed for the quiet serenity of her rural hometown. Nights startled by vague nightmares left Nguyen waking up feeling more lonely than scared. She dared not cry, afraid of startling her roommate, quietly tossing and turning instead. Living far from home, Nguyen understood everyone had their own struggles. She didn't want to burden her friends. Today's extra shift ended early, and Nguyen rushed back to the dormitory to rest. Although a bit tired, she was glad to contribute to her family's savings. Her family wasn't affluent. As sleep quickly approached, Nguyen heard a knock on her door. Irritated, she climbed down from her bunk bed to answer. "Is 505 changing water?" The voice of the floor attendant echoed emotionlessly, slightly annoyed by the delay in the door being opened. "No. Thank you," Nguyen politely replied, closing the door, eager to return to her interrupted sleep. Suddenly, the room darkened. Probably because nobody has returned yet, Nguyen reassured herself as she headed back to bed. But now she couldn't understand why there was someone lying on her bed. Had someone mistaken her bed? In the darkness, Nguyen strained to see the face of the girl on her bed. It wasn't her roommate or anyone she recognized. Suddenly, she felt uneasy, reaching for the light switch, only to find it missing. Confused, Nguyen searched the room, but it was enveloped in darkness, except for a black butterfly fluttering nearby. The room seemed oddly arranged, though Nguyen was certain she was still in her own room. The black butterfly fluttered closer, and as Nguyen reached out to catch it, drowsiness overwhelmed her. Shaking her head, she returned to her bed, only to find another girl climbing onto it. This girl performed some sort of ritual, placing a small object near the other girl's closed eyes. Nguyen couldn't see what it was. Somehow, she knew the girl on her bed would never wake up again. Nguyen's eyes snapped open. The neon light was blinding. She placed her hand on her chest, hearing her heart pounding rapidly, sweat pouring down like she had just finished a 100 meters sprint. It was the same dream. Since moving into this room, Nguyen had occasionally dreamt of it, and the frequency had been increasing. Moreover, the dream's details were becoming clearer. If before, Nguyen could only vaguely see a black figure, now she could discern the faces of the two girls in detail, so much so that she believed she would recognize them if she met them. But Nguyen couldn't understand the significance of this dream. What was the purpose of that butterfly? These questions puzzled Nguyen, to the point where she didn't even notice the black butterfly fluttering against the ceiling, as if it had just returned from somewhere in an instant. "Maybe I should get a little closer," Nguyen whispered to herself before her roommate called her to prepare for an evening stroll. The next morning, the dormitory was bustling, everyone preparing for the insecticide spraying before the Tet holiday break. Nguyen felt a pang of sympathy for the butterfly hiding on the ceiling. Apart from innocently fluttering its wings in this room, it hadn't harmed anyone. It didn't deserve to die here. Nguyen shared this thought with Deep, her roommate, who sighed. "Because you don't know, insects can be deadly." Nguyen doubted this. She only knew a few species of bees could sting fatally, but butterflies were harmless pollen carriers, right? Near Chi's hometown, there's a highly poisonous butterfly. Its wings contain sleep-inducing pollen, and inhaling it for hours can be fatal, Chi, from the bed below, chimed in. "I heard back then our dorm had someone die from this butterfly, so we have to spray insecticide around Tet." "Like sleeping pills," Nguyen murmured. "Recently, you've been sleeping a lot," Nguyen, Deep teased. Nguyen knew she had been sleeping more lately, but that was because of the nightmares keeping her awake at night. She hadn't told anyone about those strange dreams, not even Deep. Nguyen grabbed a chair and stood on it, swatting at the butterfly on the ceiling. She felt an odd reluctance for it to die, though she didn't know why. The butterfly lazily circled the room before the door swung open, and the dorm manager, too, entered. The butterfly swiftly darted past her, causing her to scream and retreat to a corner. Nguyen and Deep waved their hands, guiding the butterfly towards the balcony, then it disappeared. "Are you okay? It's just a butterfly, too," Deep quickly reassured her. "I'm afraid of butterflies, insects since I was little." For some reason, Nguyen suddenly imagined Tu as her age and now, her face not much different, though Nguyen was sure she had never met her at the same age. Room 505, get ready. The insecticide spraying will start in 5 minutes. Tu didn't address Nguyen directly but hurried everyone out. As the evening ended, Nguyen breathed a sigh of relief as the butterfly returned, seemingly unaffected by the spraying. Suddenly, Nguyen felt curious about what type of butterfly it was, how it could survive in such a place for nearly 6 months. She opened her laptop and searched for information on butterfly species. She felt a slight disappointment at not finding any species matching the description of black, clinging to the ceiling, and living nearly 6 months. Every time she saw an image of a black swallowtail butterfly resembling it, she felt disappointed when it didn't match the behavior. Frustrated, Nguyen abandoned the search, shutting her laptop and gently drifting back to sleep. As usual, sleep quickly enveloped her. This time, Nguyen decided to delve deeper, noticing a red butterfly crushed beside the pillow of the sleeping girl. This time, it wasn't a feeling but a certainty that the girl would never wake up again. Nguyen woke up, checking the clock. It was just past 2 a.m. She breathed a bit heavily, her heart seeming accustomed to this scene, only beating lightly. Nguyen sat up, grabbing her laptop, researching the red butterfly from her dream. Quickly, she found the search results. The scarlet blood butterfly, with wings of red and carrying a large amount of sleep-inducing powder, just its fluttering in this room is enough to put everyone in the room to sleep. If one inhales this pollen for a long time, death is inevitable. But Nguyen couldn't understand how a specific species from a remote forest could harm anyone if it didn't come into contact with anyone. Quickly, her curiosity was satisfied as she read about the butterflies, migration, and some accidents it caused. Some people fell into hours-long slumbers, with the most tragic being the death of the agricultural university student due to prolonged exposure to the pollen. Nguyen shuddered, recalling the dream, the girl crushing the butterfly's wings, looking so familiar. The next morning, Deep noticed Nguyen waking up early, unaware that Nguyen hadn't slept a wink. Nguyen remembered Chi's words from the day before and decided to ask Chi about it. Quickly, Nguyen learned some basic information about the tragic death of that female student to investigate further. Nguyen didn't know why she wanted to know the truth so badly, perhaps because of her dreams. Gathering information about a death nearly 15 years ago wasn't easy. Nguyen silently thanked the internet for its development and preservation of most information. Following old links, Nguyen finally knew exactly what had happened. In the years when the dormitory of the school she had just built was in place, a strange incident occurred in room 505. One morning in January, the manageress, as usual, went up to check the rooms only to find 3 people in the room at this time, as it was close to Tet so almost all the students had gone home, still immersed in sleep. Being strict, she did not accept such a situation, immediately knocking on the door of the room. She knocked loudly to the point where everyone in the hallway rushed out to see what was causing the commotion. Her professional instinct told her that something was not right, so she used the spare key to open the door and entered the room, trying to wake up the 3 girls. But all 3 remained motionless. An ambulance was quickly called to take them to the hospital. Sadly, only 2 of the girls woke up, while 1 remained in a deep sleep. It was quickly discovered that the cause of this strange incident was the presence of a migrating blood moth, which brought about this tragic disaster. Room 505 was locked, and for 10 years, the rooms on the 5th floor remained vacant. Later, when the incident was long over and the demand for rooms required the management to reuse the 5th floor, including room 505. And for that reason, every approaching Tet, the dormitory carried out insecticide spraying to ensure a safe living environment for students. She carefully reviewed the photos of that incident and realized a few things, why only she dreamt of that dream and not someone else. The photo of the girl, the victim named Du Bao Nguyen, with her eyes closed, was the same girl lying on Nguyen's bed in the dream. Although room 505 was arranged differently back then, it was old enough to recognize similarities with the current room. Nguyen felt that the dream was recurring even though she was fully awake. It was the same room, the same bed, and even the name was Nguyen. Perhaps that's why Nguyen could dream that dream. The girl left in the days leading up to Tet, so the closer it got to the Tet holiday, the more Nguyen dreamt of that dream, vividly. But according to the dream, someone placed a blood moth on Bao Nguyen's pillow, not just an accident. Scrolling down to the bottom of the page, Nguyen saw that the room's image was captured without missing any details. The window near Nguyen's bed and balcony were tightly closed. On the other side of the room, the window where the two girls were lying was wide open. Nguyen noticed this detail before horrifyingly looking at the names of the two people unintentionally present in the room back then, Nguyen T. An Tu and Pham Minh Tu. Pham Minh Tu, the current dormitory manager of Nguyen, secretly hoped it was someone with the same name. Knowing this mystery did not make her feel comfortable or stop her from dreaming about that dream. Instead, Nguyen was drawn further into it. She saw the girl crushing a butterfly's wings on Bao Nguyen's pillow and then opening her own bed's window. Based on the girl's bed position, Nguyen guessed it was Tu. The dream kept repeating itself, making Nguyen feel extremely exhausted. She was too familiar with the story now, so she either joked with the butterfly or sat quietly, waiting for it to end. She could distinguish that it was a dream, unlike before. Nguyen felt like an accomplice in this attempted murder. Every time she faintly heard someone say, dream, butterfly, or death, she startled. She knew she was holding a secret, not sure if it was real or just a hallucination. Nguyen looked so tired that Deep sympathized, thinking Nguyen was ill. Then Nguyen decided to investigate everything to clear up the doubts in her mind. Sitting absent-mindedly, Nguyen realized that Bao Nguyen and Tu were close friends. Since Bao Nguyen's death, Tu had developed a fear of butterflies, perhaps due to trauma. More importantly, Pham Minh Tu back then was the same Tu who managed the 5th floor of the current university dormitory. The deeper Nguyen delved into the events of that year, the more confused she became. Tu clearly lied about when she started fearing butterflies. Was that dream real? If it was fake, why did it feel so vivid and authentic? Nguyen saw Bao Nguyen's face before discovering that article. And if it was real, what did Tu intend to do? So many questions haunted Nguyen endlessly. Someone suddenly investigating a case from nearly 15 years ago naturally attracted attention. Nguyen began to be investigated and questioned by the management, but she insisted she knew nothing, just curious. But she was closely watched while releasing the red paper butterflies in the dormitory courtyard. Nguyen felt like things were about to end. She released the red paper butterfly into the courtyard and entered her room. Last night, in her dream, instead of being invisible and safe, Nguyen felt scared this time. The girl was crushing a butterfly, not only visible but also smiling at Nguyen. On the 23rd of Tet, almost everyone went back to their hometowns, leaving only Deep and Nguyen behind. Nguyen no longer felt scared being alone in the room, but rather wanted to meet the girl who had slept on this bed before, Bao Nguyen, to know the truth. Nguyen felt that things would end tonight, so she declined to go with Deep. Absent-mindedly staring at the butterfly for a while, Nguyen leaned out onto the balcony to look at the moonless sky, only stars. The door was slightly ajar, and Nguyen called out softly, "Coming back early?" The response to Nguyen's words was the sound of the door closing. Normally, Deep would enter the room with constant chatter. Not turning back, Nguyen asked, "Why are you so quiet today?" Nguyen's heart was pounding. She turned around and realized that it was not Deep in the room but Tu, the dormitory manager with the keys to the rooms. "I haven't rested yet." Nguyen smiled. "Do you know?" Tu's voice trembled. "Why are you investigating Bao Nguyen's death? What are you to Nguyen?" "I don't know anyone named Bao Nguyen." Nguyen replied calmly, as if she had known the answer to her question for a long time. "You're lying." Tu's voice became harsh. "Du bin Nguyen, just one letter different. I should have guessed and put you somewhere else." "Why? What did you guess?" Nguyen continued to inquire. "Guess what? Stop pretending. Now what do you want to end your detective game?" Tu's voice was hoarse. Nguyen sensed a hint of weakness in it. "Why? I just want to know why." Nguyen replied firmly, trying to find a way out, silently blaming herself for not doing so sooner. But before she could, a hand grabbed her shirt and pressed her against the balcony. Nguyen struggled and screamed, but in vain. The hallway was deserted, and no one paid attention. It seemed that when one lost their reason due to panic, there was a terrible force. Tu's hand tightened around Nguyen as if trying to push her down into the courtyard. The more Nguyen struggled, the more she felt weak. About to lose herself, she let go. The red paper butterflies fluttered out into the air. Suddenly, Nguyen saw something dark flying between her and the dorm manager. At first, Tu pushed it away, but when Nguyen realized it was a black butterfly, Tu began to lose her aggressive stance and started attacking Nguyen instead, who leaned against the balcony, slowly slipping down, gasping for breath. Nguyen was sure the girl in front of her couldn't attack her anymore because the red butterflies were fluttering around, and the black butterfly gently flew to her, making Tu gradually lose her mind, only screaming, "Stay away from me." Nguyen had guessed that in the past few days, her red butterflies had caused Tu to lose sleep and appetite, and now the black butterfly was making her lose her sanity. Haunted by her own way of killing, she could only scream. Nguyen knew that, but she didn't see another girl standing next to Tu, eyes smiling, a mocking smile. Tonight, two old friends reunited, but one of them had gone insane because of this reunion. Everything ended that night just as Nguyen had predicted. Out of jealousy for her close friend and roommate, Tu had not bothered to return to her distant hometown but found a pair of blood moths, risking danger to make herself and another friend fall into a deep sleep. Tu planned everything, closing the window and balcony near Bao Nguyen's bed while leaving the window near her open to ensure that this plan only harmed one person without their knowledge of her butterfly obsession. She had planned it so meticulously that people felt sorry for her for losing a friend and having to carry the butterfly phobia from then on. Except Tu overlooked one thing, that her friend named Bao Nguyen knew everything, and nearly 15 years later, Abin Nguyen accidentally found out this secret and carried the murderer's obsession to push that person into the corner of truth. That night, sleep came later than usual, but enough for the two Nguyens to bid farewell to each other. Bao Nguyen said nothing, just felt lighter and then disappeared. The next morning, Nguyen found on her pillow the dried carcass of a black butterfly, carefully buried it. It was a black phoenix butterfly. Excerpt from a Nin Toi Su in January 2013. Quote, "The mysterious case from nearly 15 years ago suddenly has a new conclusion. The cause of Du Bao Nguyen's death was investigated, but the murderer did not confine himself to the bars of a prison cell, but rather to the bars of his conscience for a lifetime. The murderer went insane because of his own eerie obsession. Perhaps everyone has a ghost in their heart, so when someone does something wrong, it appears and clings to them, haunting them for life. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough to prevent the regrettable from happening. The hallway where the murderer was confined only echoed with meaningless screams and his sinister smile as he reached out into the void, murmuring, 'Red butterflies.'" The end.
Hopefully the content has brought you interesting and meaningful moments. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the Ghost Stories YouTube channel to follow the channel's next videos. See you in the next video. Have a good day.